Lately, I've been in the mood for a story that is thought-provoking and shocking, but in more of a magical sort of way. There are plenty of supposedly true accounts of paranormal or unexplained phenomena on the internet, including those who have claimed to be traveling through time. The story I'm about to share has been called one of the most convincing stories of time travel out there, at least according to some. I'll let you decide what you think after hearing the details. Welcome to my channel. My name is Chrissy, and I typically discuss things that are strange, mysterious, and creepy. If that interests you, then please subscribe or follow me. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button, leave me a comment, or share this video with a friend. That really helps out a small channel like mine. Okay, now let's get into the story. The curious case of Sergei Ponomarenko, time traveler or hoax. Imagine an ordinary spring day in Kyiv, Ukraine in 2006. The streets are bustling with people, everyone moving to their own rhythm, barely noticing one another. But amidst this scene, a man stood out, almost like a misplaced figure from an old film reel. His attire, a neatly pressed suit, polished shoes, a fedora perched atop his head, and a vintage camera in hand, seemed decades out of place. He looked around, clearly disoriented, as though he had just stepped into a world he didn't recognize. This man introduced himself as Sergei Ponomarenko, and his story would soon shake the internet. You see, Sergei didn't claim to be lost. No, he claimed he was from the year 1958 and somehow found himself in 2006. Today, we're diving into one of the strangest alleged time travel stories in recent memory, the story of Sergei Ponomarenko. Is this man proof that time travel is real, or is there a simpler explanation behind this baffling tale? A strange encounter in Kyiv. Sergei's appearance attracted enough attention that a few concerned citizens called the police, describing a strange man who looked completely lost and out of place. When officers approached, Sergei's confusion only deepened, but his explanations were even stranger. According to him, the year was 1958, and he had no idea how he'd ended up in the bustling modern city of 2006 Kyiv. He provided an old Soviet passport, and when the officers examined it, it looked authentic, down to the stamps, worn pages, and even a photo of Sergei in his youthful prime. At this point, the officers were at a loss. Was this man mentally ill? Or perhaps it was all a prank? But Sergei's distressed demeanor and the out-of-place details didn't feel like a joke. As they spoke, one officer noticed the vintage camera hanging from Sergei's shoulder. The model was a Yashica, a camera popular in the 1950s, but almost unheard of by 2006. When Sergei mentioned there was undeveloped film in the camera, the officers saw an opportunity to verify if this man was who he claimed to be. A journey back in time on film. The police took Sergei to the station, and there, they decided to develop the film inside the Yashica. To their astonishment, the photographs showed scenes of 1950s Kyiv, historical landmarks as they were decades prior. One photo even captured Sergei himself, dressed in the same clothing he wore upon his arrival in 2006. These photos were analyzed by experts who found no obvious signs of tampering. The film type and grain structure were consistent with film stock from the 1950s. Every detail seemed to support Sergei's claim. The more the officers dug, the less this appeared to be a prank. But if Sergei had truly traveled from the past, how was that possible? Psychiatric evaluation. The police, still skeptical, but increasingly intrigued, arranged for Sergei to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Pavel Kamishov, a respected psychiatrist, was assigned to the case. Dr. Kamishov initially assumed he'd be dealing with some form of delusion or dissociative disorder. But the more he spoke with Sergei, the more unsettling the experience became. Sergei described his life in 1958 Kyiv in striking detail, speaking with nostalgia and vividness about his job, family, and the political landscape of his era. What puzzled Dr. Kamishov most was Sergei's genuine fascination and confusion over modern technologies. He marveled at mobile phones and computers, asking about their functions as though he was learning about them for the first time. This wasn't something someone pretending to be from the past would likely get so viscerally, so instinctively wrong. Dr. Kamishov grew increasingly conflicted. If this was a psychological anomaly, it was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The vanishing act, One day, while under observation at the psychiatric hospital, Sergei was allowed to take a short walk around the facility's gardens. The hospital's security cameras captured him as he strolled outside, but then something inexplicable happened. He walked out of the camera's frame, but never reappeared. Extensive searches of the hospital grounds and nearby areas yielded nothing. Sergei Ponomarenko had simply vanished, just as mysteriously as he had arrived. Theories and speculations. Naturally, Sergei's story has sparked a flurry of theories attempting to explain his bizarre arrival and disappearance. Let's take a look at the most popular ones. Time travel. The most enticing theory, of course, is that Sergei was a genuine time traveler. The photographs, his detailed knowledge of 1958, and his authentic reactions to modern technology support this theory. Proponents argue that Sergei's sudden appearance and disappearance are consistent with a time travel anomaly, a glitch in the flow of time that allowed him to slip between decades. Psychological phenomenon. Another theory suggests that Sergei's story might be the result of a rare psychological disorder, such as a dissociative fugue state. In this condition, individuals can lose their personal identity, in some cases invent an entirely new life. But this theory falls short of explaining the old photographs and Sergei's disappearance. Elaborate hoax. Skeptics argue that this whole event could be a carefully crafted hoax. Perhaps the photographs were doctored, and Sergei was merely an actor. But if this were the case, who orchestrated the prank, and to what end? Without any known motives or clear gains from the story, the hoax theory leaves many unanswered questions. Parallel universes. A more speculative theory involves the idea of parallel universes or alternate realities. Could it be that Sergei crossed over from a parallel world where it really was 1958? While intriguing, this idea remains purely hypothetical and has no scientific basis to support it. Unanswered questions. Even today, nearly 2 decades later, the case of Sergei Ponomarenko continues to raise unsettling questions. If he was a time traveler, how did he move through time? What mechanism or phenomenon allowed it? If this was all a hoax, what purpose did it serve? And if it was a psychological case, why was he never found? The photographs remain one of the most compelling parts of Sergei's story. Experts verified that they were consistent with the camera and film stock used in the 1950s, casting doubt on the notion of a modern forgery. But if they were real, how did he acquire them, and how did he so closely resemble the man in the photos? A story that defies explanation. The case of Sergei Ponomarenko remains one of the most enigmatic in modern folklore. His arrival, strange demeanor, genuine knowledge of the 1950s, and ultimate disappearance challenge us to rethink our assumptions about time, memory, and reality. Sergei's tale is either a compelling reminder of our capacity for belief in the extraordinary, or perhaps, just perhaps, evidence that the impossible isn't so impossible after all. And as we continue to ponder the truth behind Sergei's story, one question lingers. Will he ever return? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Be sure to check out some of the other videos on my channel. You'll find true crime, short horror stories, and more. Until next time, please stay safe, and as always, stay curious.